This is a software guide to the Tendon Tension Monitoring System on the Okume, Echo, and Foxtrot platforms. Now, this is divided up into 4 parts. First is the main interface. The first step is to use a computer on the Hess network and type into the internet browser for Echo or Foxtrot with the IP addresses listed there. Just go ahead and type that into the browser bar. And first thing you'll see on this interface is for the instantaneous average, min, and max values. Those are updating there in the table. And then you also see some buttons below, the gray buttons for past 1 hour, 24 hours, past week, or past month. So we'll go ahead and visit each of those. You can also select this plot if you're using it from the console itself, and then the plot will go into full screen mode. Okay, so you can see some of the more details in full screen. Okay, so we have what I'm going to do now is go ahead and just select each of these buttons, past 24 hours. Now here you'll be able to see the cycles of the tides. Okay, so all of the tendon tensions move up and down as with the tide action. You can also see the past week. In this case, the collection started about 2.5 days ago, so the plots will fill in as more data becomes available. So you can see the past month, past week, past day, or past hour. You can also select each of the tendons individually and see just the data for that tendon if you'd like. So there's hyperlinks there on the figure itself. If you select those, you can cycle through each of those. Okay, so now what we're going to do is go ahead and cover part 2, which is looking at the temperature measurements. Temperature is important for compensating the strain gauges to be able to correct for the temperature sensitivity that's there. Okay, so we're going to go to the same address, but then we're just going to put /TEMP at the end. That's for temperature. And then it'll bring up a very similar interface. Normally you don't need to visit this interface. This is more for advanced diagnostics, but a very similar interface here, past 1 hour, past 24 hours, and then past month. Some of the things that we see on this that are a little bit surprising is you do see a change in the thermocline, and you will see the temperature move up and down. And you can also calibrate these as well, and type in the temperature and then click submit, and it will calibrate to the appropriate values. Just like on the prior plot, you can select each one individually. It'll bring up the past month view, and there you can see small changes. Those were the thermocline moving up or down. In this next section, we'll cover the sensor calibration. In particular, the calibration of the load sensors. Important thing to note is that calibration is only for authorized people. Contact your application engineer or Astro Technology for support. So what we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to take a look at this hourly trend here, and we're going to calibrate T21 to 850 kips. Right now it's 857. You'll see that number update as it gets new measurements, but we'll shift it down by just about 6 or 7 kip. Okay, so what we're going to do now is go down to the bottom. There's an advanced interface link there at the bottom. I'm just going to open this up in a new tab, or you can just select it. And then a new tab will appear with a login credentials. Now this is, login credentials are available for authorized people to use and access this. And once you do that, click submit, and it will bring you to an advanced interface where it will show you a lot of information about the internal system of the TTMS. The thing we're going to focus on are these blue and green boxes here. Now the blue boxes, those are for calibration at a particular baseline value, and then the green boxes are for the sensitivity of the sensor. So both of those need to be calibrated during the calibration procedure. So what we're going to do is go look at the about 853, 855. It's kind of oscillating back and forth there with the wave action, and we're going to set it down to 850. And then once you're ready, you type that in, 850, and click submit. A verification message will appear off to the right that the calibration has occurred. Okay, so when we go back to the value, what we're going to do is see in the table if 850 or about that showed up, and it looks like it has, just with wave action, it decreased by 0.1 kip, so 849.9. And then the important thing as well is when you're doing the calibration, when you're done, go down to the bottom and click Account Log Off to be able to log off and clear that access. The APMonitor site will confirm log off. Next section, we're going to cover some of the advanced features in the advanced interface. Calibration was just one of those. So what we'll do is go ahead and open up our browser again, visit the same location that we used for the calibration, but going down to this advanced interface link down at the bottom will bring you there. And again, the same credentials that you used for calibration will bring you to the advanced interface tab, and also some other pages that we'll be able to look at. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go to the login and type in the username and password, and then select submit, and that will bring me to these information about the sensors. The first thing that I notice is our different tables here of the values I want to be able to monitor. The number of live sensors, the raw temperature in Celsius, uncalibrated, and the raw strain as well. So there are multiple strain sensors on each tendon, and we're monitoring the health and values of those. Now the raw wavelength, those are the values that are coming back from the peak detection from the light signals, the light source, laser source that's coming back, and we're able to monitor the peak locations of the reflected quantities coming from the fiber Bragg grading sensors. Okay, so those are coming back. We're looking at those, and they're updating real time. The other thing that we covered in our previous section on calibration, here again the baseline calibration values for T12, T21, T32, T41, and again if you want to calibrate, you put in the value there and then click submit. And I'm not going to do that here. Now the other thing that we might want to do is adjust the sensitivity of the sensors. We want to be able to see with changes in draft on the platform, we want to see a certain amount of load change in the sensors. I'm going to go down to these yellow box areas. These are for peak detection. The peak detection algorithm that's running underneath, it takes the raw signal and translates that into peak values and also magnitudes. Okay, so these yellow boxes, these are the peak detection parameters, the 4 most common parameters that we typically adjust when tuning this system. So you have relative peak threshold, width, and then width level. Okay, so we can also go through and clear out the historical database as well. This delete database allows you to delete either the hourly, the daily, the monthly, or these other databases that are running in the background. For some reason, let's say you want to delete those, you've recalibrated, you want to give new values, you can delete those. Okay, so next we're going to go to the Modbus TCP/IP configuration. I'm just going to open that up in a new tab. Okay, so Modbus, there's a Modbus and an OPC connection available. With Modbus, you have to have the values in the correct registers. So this allows you to adjust the registers for the Modbus through this web page dialog. Now I'm going to go to the original wavelengths and levels. This is possibly the most raw data that we have access to through this. And again, this is for more advanced troubleshooting and diagnostics. Here we look at the wavelength, the peak values, but also the peak strength. Okay, so the height of those, and you can see that through this advanced interface. It only updates once when you open that page, so you have to click refresh if you want to see it again. Okay, now if you click account log off, again that'll bring you to the APMonitor.com website. You'll know that you've logged off. You can contact Astro Technology at the following email addresses or phone numbers for additional general support or computer and software support.